All right, let's dive into an incredible story of perseverance from, believe it or not, over 2,500 years ago. It's the story of a woman who just refused to take no for an answer, and in doing so, she ended up changing the course of a major world religion forever.
And this quote? Man, it just gets right to the heart of it all. It's all about refusing to give up on a spiritual quest, even when the person you admire most is the one standing in your way. We're talking about some serious, raw determination here.
So all that determination, it builds up to this one huge moment in early Buddhist history. A moment that really forced the issue, leading to a decision that would send ripples through the centuries.
Just picture this for a second. A group of 500 women, led by an actual queen, show up where the Buddha is teaching. But they don't look like royalty at all. Their heads are shaved, their feet are literally wounded and bleeding from walking so far, and they've swapped their fancy clothes for the simple yellow robes of a monk. You know, they are making an incredibly powerful statement without saying a single word. So you have to be asking, who was this woman? Who was so determined, and what was her relationship to the Buddha that she felt she could make such a bold move in the first place? Well, her name was Mahapajapati Gautami. And get this, she wasn't just some random follower. She was his aunt, and after his mother died, she became his stepmother. She was the sister of Queen Maya, and she raised Prince Siddhartha like he was her own son. So we're not talking about a distant relative here. This was the woman who raised him. And, as if that wasn't enough, there was actually a prophecy made when she was born that said she would one day lead a great number of people, a destiny she was now trying to make happen.
So after the Buddha reached enlightenment and started his teachings, a lot of his family joined up, even his own son. Mahapajapati was deeply inspired, and she wanted to dedicate her life to this path too. But there was a problem, a big one. The way was blocked for her.
Her persistence was just extraordinary. She went right to the Buddha and asked to be ordained as a nun. He said no. She asked a second time. He said no again. A third time she begged him, and a third time he refused. It really seemed like the door was slammed shut for good on women joining the monastic order. But here's where things get interesting. It was right after that third no that she and her 500 followers made that dramatic journey. And seeing them show up, weeping, feet bleeding, it moved the Buddha's cousin and top disciple, Ananda, so much that he decided he had to step in. So Ananda goes to the Buddha, but he's smart about it. He doesn't just ask the same old thing, he completely flips the script. He asks this very simple, very direct, and game-changing question: are women spiritually capable of achieving the same enlightenment as men? And the Buddha's answer? Just one word: yes. That's it. Yes. And that single word, well, it changed absolutely everything. You can just imagine Ananda seizing the moment, right? He heard that yes and he pounced. He was like, okay, so if they're capable, then what about Mahapajapati, the woman who literally raised you? Surely she deserves a chance.
And boom! This time the Buddha agreed. The first ever female monastic order, the Bhikkhuni Sangha, was born. A huge, huge win. But there was a catch. It came with conditions. Mahapajapati had to accept what are called the 8 Garudhammas, which were basically a set of pretty tough rules that put the nuns in a lower position than the monks. For instance, a nun who had been ordained for 100 years still had to bow to a monk who had been ordained for a single day. It was a compromise for sure, but it was the one that got them the victory.
And just like that, with her agreeing to the terms, Mahapajapati and all 500 of her followers, they did it. They became the very first Buddhist nuns in history. And here's the best part, the real validation. They didn't just become nuns. After getting instruction from the Buddha, every single one of them, all 500, went on to achieve arhatship. That's the highest level of enlightenment there is. They absolutely proved, beyond any doubt, that women were just as capable as men. So this wasn't just a personal win for them. It literally paved the way for female monks all over the Buddhist world. To really get a feel for this, let's take a quick look at some of the key places where this whole story went down. Our little tour starts at Sarnath. You gotta start here. This is ground zero, the exact spot where the Buddha gave his very first sermon. It's the source of the teachings that Mahapajapati was fighting so hard for women to be a full part of. Next up, Venuvana in Rajgir. Think of this as the original clubhouse, the first Buddhist monastery ever. It was an established men-only world that Mahapajapati fought to carve out a space in for herself and for all the women who would come after her. And finally, we end up at Kushinagar. This is where the Buddha's earthly journey ended. Decades later, after a long, amazing life as a teacher, 120-year-old Mahapajapati came back to this very spot to pay her last respects. It brings her own incredible life story full circle.
When you boil it all down, this whole story really hammers home a powerful idea that real spiritual practice isn't about the body you're in. It's like the quote says, "The mind has no gender." It's really that simple. So that leaves us with something to think about, right? Here's the story of incredible guts and persistence from 2,500 years ago. How does that challenge us today? Our own ideas about equality, about who gets a seat at the table, and who has the right to choose their own path. It's a powerful legacy and a lot to chew on.